I have a premise for you today that might make you feel a little unstable.
Unstable. That's a strong start.
Bear with me. The premise is this. You are hallucinating right now. As you listen to this, you think you're hearing a continuous stream of words right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what language feels like.
You think it's just sound hitting your ear. But the research we're covering today argues that half of what your brain is processing, well, it isn't actually there. It's silence.
That is actually a perfect way to frame it. If we looked at the sound waves of this conversation, we'd be missing half the story.
So what's the story?
The deep dive today is into the principles and parameters of the computational system. We're looking at the work of linguists like Howard Lasnik, who argue that language isn't just a habit, it's a biological organ.
A computational instinct. That's the phrase that really stuck with me. We are not talking about school grammar here.
Not at all.
This isn't about, getting a red mark for ending a sentence with a preposition. We're talking about the source code of the human mind.
Exactly. We're looking under the hood. And what we find there is a machine, a very specific, very rigid machine that builds structures, moves words around, and interprets things that have no physical sound.
Okay, so let's open up the blueprint. The source material describes this system almost like a factory line. You don't just, open your mouth and words fall out.
No, there are stages, levels of representation.
So walk us through the assembly line.
Sure. So imagine a manufacturing floor. It starts with a lexicon. That's just your mental dictionary, the list of words you know.
Got it. The parts list.
Right. And the system grabs some of those parts and builds the first level, D structure.
The deep structure.
Right. And this is the underlying arrangement. It's all about logic and meaning. This is the level where theta roles are assigned.
Theta roles. Okay, that sounds like a sci-fi fraternity or something.
It's much simpler than it sounds. It's just who did what to whom. Who's the agent, the doer? Who's the theme, the thing that got moved or affected?
So at D structure, you're just setting the scene.
You're putting the actors in their starting positions. That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so D structure is the raw ingredients on the counter. The egg is the egg, the flour is the flour. We haven't baked the cake yet.
A perfect analogy. Then the machinery kicks in. Things start to move. We'll get to why they move in a minute, but elements shift around.
And that gets us to S structure, surface structure.
Surface structure, which is closer to what we actually say in here.
Closer, but not quite there.
Not quite. From S structure, the assembly line splits. One output goes to PF, or phonetic form.
PF.
That's basically the instruction manual for your mouth, tongue, and lungs to actually make noise.
And the other output?
That one goes to LF, or logical form. That's the interface for meaning, how your brain actually interprets the whole thing.
So one assembly line goes to the mouth, and the other goes to the mind.
Precisely. And here's the crucial part, something the deep dive material just hammers home. These structures aren't just beads on a string. They're not left to right, they're trees.
Trees. Phrase markers.
Yes. Upside-down trees, with a root at the top and branches coming down. The relationships that matter in your brain aren't about which word is next to another. It's about who is higher or lower in the tree.
Which brings us to a term that pops up constantly in Lasnik's work, and honestly, it sounds a little aggressive. C command.
It stands for constituent command.
It sounds like something out of a naval movie. I C command you to swab the deck. Why do we need a fancy term for just being higher up?
Well, you could say that, but C command is more about vision. Think of a corporate org chart.
Okay, I can picture that. CEO at the top.
Right. The CEO C commands the vice president, but the CEO also C commands everyone working under that vice president.
So the CEO can see all the way down to the intern in the mailroom.
Exactly. And because the CEO can see the intern, the CEO can affect the intern. In grammar, a word like John often has to be in that CEO chair to control a word like himself, which might be way down in the mailroom.
And if John is just some middle manager in a different department?
He can't see himself. The link breaks.
Yeah.
The whole sentence crashes.
So the hierarchy is really strict, and this tree structure, this is universal.
The principles of building the tree are universal. Every human brain does it. But, and this is the whole parameters part of the title, we have different switch settings.
The source brings up English and Japanese here.
Right. This is the classic head parameter example. Every phrase has a head, the main part, like the verb, and a complement, the stuff that completes it.
So in English, we say eat an apple. Eat is the head. It comes first.
Correct. English is head first, but Japanese is head last. The switch is flipped. They say essentially apple eat.
but the underlying logic, the tree, the C command, the CEO looking down at the intern, all of that's the same.
The machinery is identical. It's the same software, just with different user preferences checked.
Okay, so we've got the factory, the trees, the settings. Now I want to get to the part that actually justifies my whole hallucination comment from the start. The invisible characters.
The empty categories.
This is where my brain started to melt a little. The source argues that these trees have slots that are grammatically active, structurally real, but completely silent.
Yes. The system demands that certain positions be filled. If you don't put a sound there, the brain it puts a placeholder there instead.
Okay, let's talk about these ghosts. There are two that confuse me at first because they sound so similar. You have Big Pro and Little Pro.
It can be confusing. Let's take them one at a time.
Okay, let's start with the one that acts like a lazy person. Little Pro.
Little pro written with a lowercase p is exactly that. It's the empty category you find in null subject languages. Think Italian or Spanish.
Right. This is why if I translate an Italian sentence, literally I sound like a robot.
Exactly. In Italian, you can just say, arrived yesterday. The subject is silent. But your brain knows it's he or she because the verb ending gives you the clue. The he is there. It's just wearing an invisibility cloak.
That's Little Pro. But in English, we absolutely cannot do that. If I walk into a room and just announce, arrived yesterday, people will think I'm malfunctioning.
Because the English parameter for little pro is set to off, we have to pronounce the subject, he arrived yesterday.
Okay, so that's the lazy pronoun. Now, what about Big Pro? This one feels different, more trapped.
Big PRO, all caps, is a structural hostage. It only ever appears inside infinitives, phrases with to.
Can you give me an example?
Sure, take the sentence, John expected to win. Now, just look at that second part. To win. Who is doing the winning?
John is.
Right, but the word John isn't anywhere near win. There's a gap.
Okay.
John expected blank to win. That blank is big PRO.
But why can't we just put a word there? Why can't I say John expected him to win?
You can, but that completely changes the meaning. If you say John expected him to win, then him is some other guy. If you want John himself to be the winner, you must use silence. You must use PRO.
Wait, that is wild. So to express the idea that John is the one doing the winning, I am forced by the laws of grammar to use a ghost word.
Exactly. PRO is a placeholder that structurally refuses to have a sound. It sits in the subject slot of that infinitive, and it's controlled by John.
It's like a puppet. John's in the main clause pulling the strings.
But sometimes PRO has no strings. Take a sentence like, it is difficult to leave. Who's leaving?
Anyone, everyone, me, you, people in general.
Exactly. PRO is arbitrary there. It refers to a generic person. But structurally, that slot is still filled. The verb leave needs a lever. PRO is the lever.
So even when we say nothing, our brain is filling these blanks with very specific kinds of ghosts. One's a lazy pronoun, one's a puppet, but then there's a third ghost. And this one, it feels like it creates a crime scene.
You're talking about traces.
The trace, the scar left behind when a word moves.
And this connects us right to the engine of the whole system. Move alpha.
Move alpha. Again, it sounds like a military operation. Alpha team, move out.
It basically just means move anything, but you don't move for no reason.
This was the part of the source where I really got stuck. Why do words move at all? Why not just stay put in the deep structure?
It's usually about bureaucracy. It's about something called case theory.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this case thing, it feels like. Like cosmic paperwork?
It is paperwork. It is the red tape of the mind.
Okay, let me try this analogy on you. John is an employee. He has a job. He's the agent, the guy doing the work. That's his role at deep structure.
You're with me so far. He's down in the basement doing the actual work.
But he can't get paid in the basement. He has to walk up to the payroll window, the subject position, to get his check stamped. And that stamp is case.
That's a perfect analogy. To be visible in the final sentence, he needs that stamp. So he moves from the basement to the payroll window.
But here's the kicker. When John walks up to that payroll window, he doesn't just, vanish from the basement. He leaves a trace behind, a little cardboard cutout of himself.
Exactly. A ghost employee that says, hey, the guy who actually did the work started out here. The sentence is really, John was expected Trace to hurt himself.
And this is where the aha moment hit me in the source. The trace. It acts like an anaphor. It acts just like the word himself.
Yes, that is such a profound insight. A trace of a noun needs an antecedent. It needs to be bound by the thing that moved. That cardboard cutout in the basement needs to be connected to the real John at the payroll window.
And if that connection breaks,
The sentence crashes, the cardboard cutout just falls over.
it's just amazing to think that a trace, which is literally nothing, it's silence, has to follow the same grammatical rules as a physical word like himself.
It shows that the system really does treat silence and sound as equal citizens. They both have features and rules they have to follow.
But we can't just move things anywhere we want, right? You can't just teleport John to the payroll window if the door is locked.
No, absolutely not. There are very strict locality constraints. You can't just skip steps. One of the most famous is the head movement constraint, or HMC.
The traffic jam scenario.
Essentially, yeah, a head, like a verb, can only move to the next head position up the tree. It cannot leapfrog over another head.
The source gave a great example with a question. John will read the book. To make it a question, we move will.
Right. Will just hops over John. That's totally fine. Will John read the book? Perfect.
But what if we try to move the main verb, read? What if we try to make read hop over will?
Just try saying it out loud.
Read John will the book.
Oof.
It hurts. It physically hurts my mouth to say, read John will the book.
It sounds like your brain is having a stroke. And the reason it sounds so deviant, as linguists would say, is because your brain just witnessed a traffic accident. Read tried to move to the front, but Will was standing in its way. Will is ahead. Read is ahead. You can't jump over another head.
It's like checkers. You can't just jump a piece if the rules don't let you.
Exactly. And no teacher ever taught you that rule. You didn't learn in 3rd grade, don't move a main verb over an auxiliary verb. You just knew it.
Because it's factory-installed firmware.
Precisely. But sometimes the movement is so complex it almost looks like a magic trick. The source discusses the causative construction.
This is the cause-to-fall example.
Yes. So in some languages, you can literally glue words together. Imagine a structure that means John caused the books to fall. In some of those languages, the verb fall physically moves up and attaches to cause. They become a single compound word, cause fall.
So they weld themselves together.
And then that whole new welded bundle, cause fall, moves again to get tense or something.
So you have a trace of fall, and then a trace of the cause fall bundle. It traces all the way down.
And here's the paradox that Lasnik points out. If you only look at the final sentence, it looks like a crime was committed. It looks like fall moved way too far, skipping over all sorts of things.
It looks like it broke that checkers rule we just talked about.
Exactly.
Huh.
But because it happened in legal step-by-step increments, first it joined cause and then they moved together, the whole derivation is legal.
It's like the perfect crime. Every single step was legal, even if the final arrangement looks super suspicious.
And that's a key inside this whole approach. The derivation, the history of the movement, is what matters.
Yeah.
The system checks for legality at every tiny step, not just by looking at the finished product.
Okay, this brings us to the biggest, most, philosophical question in the source material. It's about directionality.
Yes. The chicken and the egg problem.
We've been talking this whole time, like the factory runs forward, you start at D structure, the place of pure meaning, you move things, and you end up at S structure, the thing you say.
That's the classic derivational view.
Right.
We build the house from the blueprints.
But the text kind of hints at something else. Do we really start at D structure, or is D structure just another hallucination, a mathematical byproduct we figure out after the fact?
It's a really deep debate. I mean, think about it. As a listener, you only ever get the sound first. You hear S structure. Your brain has to work backward from that to figure out the meaning.
So maybe D structure doesn't exist as a place we start from, but just as a property we can infer from the end result.
Lasnik really explores this tension. If the relationships are all mathematically perfect, then maybe it doesn't matter which way the arrow points. Maybe the structure just sort of exists in a timeless state. But for the sake of explaining how language works, the forward storied lexicon to D structure to S structure is the most compelling one.
It certainly makes it easier to visualize John walking up to the payroll window.
It does, absolutely.
So let's try to synthesize this. We don't just memorize phrases, we have a lexicon. We build a D structure tree where John gets his job. Then we use move alpha to shift him to a new position so he can get his case stamp.
He leaves a trace behind.
A cardboard cutout to hold his old spot. And then we pronounce it.
And we do all this at about 150 words per minute, effortlessly, while also drinking coffee and driving a car.
It really changes how you hear language. You start to realize that the silence is doing so much of the heavy lifting.
It is. The emptiness is structured.
So here's the takeaway for today. The next time you're in a conversation and someone says a pretty simple sentence like, "Who do you think John expects to see?" then I want you to just pause for a second.
Don't just hear the words.
Right. Think about the invisible trace that's sitting right after the word see. Think about the long journey that the word who took from the very bottom of that tree all the way to the front of the sentence.
And think about the fact that your brain and the brain of the person you're talking to just ran this incredibly complex series of computations with trees, command hierarchies, invisible pronouns, traces all without breaking a sweat.
We are walking, talking supercomputers.
It's the ultimate invisible machine.
That does it for this deep dive into the computational system. Thanks for listening, and keep listening to the silence. It's where all the grammar is.